We all love to talk about plugins, EQs, hardware, compression, microphones, what type of EQ move or dynamic we can change to make our sound better. But what if I told you that that process or that workflow is starving your right side of the brain to get a better mix? We're going to talk about that today here in Dark Sigil Academy. Today I'm going to bring to you guys a lot of value. I'm going to give you 3 things that will help you get a better mix, because we usually just dive into the analytics of the mixing, mastering process. And usually that's great. Like, we do need some organization, We need to analyze some things inside of our plugins or our equipment to get a better sound. But this is a very creative process. Sometimes I compare mixing to just painting in an invisible canvas, because you do have the frequencies, which are your palette, your color palette, and you have this space in between your speakers, and that is your canvas. So we have to help the right side of the brain to translate what we want in our mixes. Okay? So today I'm going to give you 3 things that are going to help you make a better mix using your right side of the brain. The first thing that I recommend usually, that we pull up our tracks in our DAW and we write down guitar, bass, snare, kick, whatever. We just type in the name of the thing that we are working on in our DAW. But that actually kind of destroys the creative process a little bit, because we are analyzing. We are typing that down word by word what we are going to work on the DAW. What I recommend to producers is, instead of writing a word, write a symbol. You know that we have these codes to make a symbol in our keyboard. I usually use, like, let's say I use the copyright symbol to represent the snare. That way, I am not training my brain to analyze things while I'm mixing. I look for something that's similar to the instrument or the track that I'm going to work with, and instead of typing down a name or a word, I just type down a symbol. That's going to help you massively to stay in the right side or the creative side of your brain, okay? The other thing I recommend that you do is that you read this book. Wait, let me see if I can. Maybe you see it right from here, because I can't focus it if I put it close. This is The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. It explains the creative side of things, or the philosophy of creativity. And he explains that there's something called source, and we cannot access source if we do not live in the present moment, especially when we are creating. Because let's say I'm trying to write a song, a great song, and we make great mixes with great songs. And I can't write a song while I try to solve 2 plus 2. You get me? Because if I try to, think 2 plus 2 is 4, I'm in the left side of the brain. I'm analyzing, and that is destroying your creative process a little bit. So it's important to stay in the present so we can access source. So I recommend this book to anyone that's in the creative endeavor, not just mixing, writing, producing, or songwriting. But this book helped me to stop living inside my mind, because we all have this internal critic that just likes to critique everything and judge everything fast. So by usually staying in the present moment, not living inside of our minds, is going to help you get a better mix and be much more creative, especially here in the studio. Something he recommends, for example, is meditating. And honestly, for me, meditating has been amazing when working in the creative process. So I really recommend this book by Rick Rubin. It's going to help you be more creative and make better creative choices when you are mixing. Third thing I recommend you guys practice when you're mixing or mastering or working inside a studio is taking breaks. That's another thing that Rick Rubin explains in the Creative Act, but it's something that I've experienced in my workflow that's helped me a lot, because usually I'm here, I'm hours inside of my mix, you know, and I love doing this, and I really want to make a really good mix, so I just focus on this. And then my ears, you know, this I'm a bit saturated on the ears, so I think my brain thinks that what I'm listening to is good, but it's not exactly that. It's just you're accustomed to listening to what you're doing, and it's not exactly a good mix. So what I recommend is just taking a break. Let's say you mix for 30 minutes, take 20-minute breaks, and then come back to see, you know, if you are in the process or if you're making good mixing choices. It's very important to know that every 2 hours of mixing, you need to rest 15 minutes on your ears. So I don't tend to recommend to mix more than 2 hours. Like, it's very important to take breaks. I think, especially when we're creating, it's very important to step back sometimes and live in a passiveness, right? It's not a negligence. Like, it's not, no, I'm not going to work on this. It's just like going out to the field and looking at the clouds or looking at the stars. You know, just taking those little beautiful breaks are going to help you a lot in your mixes. Because usually, like I said, we producers concentrate a lot on EQ curves, EQ moves, what ratio which we should use, and that's great. That's very important, and it's very important that we have an organization, especially when we are like doing a mix. What I recommend is just set up your mix or have a template so you don't have to think about it, and then try to get into the right side of your brain so you can make better mixing choices, okay? That's all for today. I think you thought I was going to talk about a new plugin that you're going to use that's going to make your mix better, or new hardware, but it's not always the case. It's very important to be creative when you are creating. Okay, so see you later, guys. Thanks a lot for being here, and rock on. Keep making great mixes, great music. This has been another episode of Dark Sigil Academy. Bless you guys.